Hey friends, welcome back. This is Trip and I hope you're doing well today. This is episode 3 on my rebuild of the 2004 barn find Harley Davidson 1200 Sportster. It had been sitting in a garage unstarted for 8 years. And if you remember my prior video where I examined the bike pretty carefully to see what was obviously right and what was wrong with it, the first was the fact that the spark plugs were rusted in pretty solid. Tried to get them out, used a good amount of force, didn't want to really force them any more than that for fear of breaking them. The second concern was when I sat on the bike, put it in gear, and tried to force it forward or backwards, even in a higher gear, I couldn't get it to budge. And that's caused a concern that possibly the pistons are frozen inside the cylinders, which wouldn't be a good thing. And the third big concern was when we took out the oil cap and looked down in the tank, there was no oil to be found. So what I'm going to do now is try to look deeper into these 3 issues, see what I can figure out, see what I can fix, and see where I need to go from here. So let's get started and take a look at these spark plugs. Very nice and rusted in. So something that works really well on frozen or rusted in spark plugs is PB Blaster. This is a great penetrant. You got to be real careful with this stuff though. It smells bad. It's got to be very well ventilated. You don't want to get it on your skin, so you got to be careful with it. So what we want to do is just hit those plugs to make sure we get them soaked pretty good. I don't know if you can see that, but the PB Blaster's just been on for, I don't know, 30-40 seconds, and you can already see the rust kind of liquefying or melting off there. And so I'm going to let you in on a little secret. I've actually been spraying these down 5 or 6 times in the last 2 days, and I haven't given them a try yet. Figured we'd do that right now. Keep your fingers crossed, and let's see if we can get rid of concern number 1. So we've got the 5/8 deep socket. All right, let's tuck away these spark plug wires just to get them out of the way here. And let's give number 2 cylinder a try. All right, folks, keep your fingers crossed. Ugh. Hey, got it. Got it. There's some relief. Okay, let's check out this spark plug coming out of here. The plugs actually don't look that bad, and they've been sitting in the bike, probably 8 to 10 years. We're certainly going to change them, but they don't look bad. They don't look burnt. They don't look like there's anything wrong with them, but we're definitely going to change these out when the time comes. Now, until we address the second concern of the cylinders being frozen up, we're going to put that plug back in there. Now, let's give cylinder number 1 a try. Fingers crossed. Hey. Whew. All right, we're batting 1,000, folks. And I have a feeling this plug is going to look just like the other one. These are Harley brand plugs, Harley Davidson plugs. There you go. Plug doesn't look bad at all. Okay, let's seat that plug back in there just to keep any crap from getting in there whatsoever. Well, frozen spark plugs, concern number 1, we've got that problem kicked. Now time to address the second issue, pistons that seem to be stuck in the cylinder heads. We're going to take the spark plugs out of here to prevent the buildup of pressure and to make it easier to try to get these cylinders unstuck. You got it in 3rd gear, and let's try to make it budge. Nothing's happening. I did this when I first got the bike. Kind of made me feel a little bit uneasy. Now we're going to see if we can't do something about it. And now the secret weapon to try to get these pistons freed up. I've got a bottle of Marvel Mystery Oil here. I'm going to put about, I don't know, 1 ounce to 2 ounce in each cylinder. And then I'm going to take the bike and tilt it back and forth. Try to get this MMO to settle down in that cylinder, coat the cylinder walls, get the rings lubricated, and then we're going to let it set for about a half an hour or so. Helping me today is my little mini funnel. And we're going to pour a good, I don't know, a couple ounces in there. Now to the other cylinder. All right. Get that Marvel Mystery Oil sloshed around. And I'm actually just going to sit up here on the bike like this for 10 minutes or so.
Eventually.
I've got it in 3rd gear. Something's going on there. Oh! Something's given. Well, I think concern number 2 is going away. But I can hear some hissing. Those cylinders are moving. Put the microphone down here. Can you hear that? There's air coming in and out of there. That is a relief. All right, concern number 2 has gone by the waysides. I am getting happier by the minute. Plug back here in the spark plug hole just to keep junk out of there once again, and we're going to move on to concern number 3. Now, when I took off the oil cap, when I first got the bike and looked down into the oil reserve tank, I couldn't see a thing. No oil. So that made me think that one of 2 things was wrong. Either over the 8 years this bike had sat, the oil had all leaked out of the bike, come out of a bad gasket, a bad seal, something, or it had settled down into the bottom of the engine. And after finding no oil in the tank, I actually called the lady up that I bought it from, and she said she had never had any problems with the bike leaking oil, and the last 8 years that the bike hadn't been started, she never saw any oil on her garage floor or on anything. So I'm pretty sure that oil is somewhere in the engine. I'm going to pull out the oil cap / dipstick, and we're going to look down in that tank, and I want you to see exactly what I saw. So for some reason, this dipstick is really hard to get out, and the seat blocks part of it. So what I'm going to actually do is remove the seat to get to it to make it a little easier. So removing the seat on a Sportster is a pretty easy affair. What you need is a large Phillips head screwdriver. There we go. Now be careful because there's a washer underneath this. You can see it there. We're going to put that aside. And now the trick to removing the seat is actually pushing forward on the seat and then lift up. And there you go. Now to get the oil cap off, you want to push down like a plunger, and you'll see it pop up there. And then you want to turn counterclockwise while you're lifting. And you want to be careful because these things are fragile and they break easy. And I'm going to grab a flashlight to give you a better view. All right, to heck with the flashlight, I'm actually going to use an LED shop light to make sure we get some good light here on the subject. And I don't know if you can see down there. There we go. There's no oil in there. No oil. That has all settled down to the bottom of the tank. So what I'm going to do now is drain the oil. So this was my 3rd major concern, at least so far anyhow. Let's keep our fingers crossed and see if we can't make it go away. Here is the kickstand bumper on the left side of the frame, and here's a clip. You want to work that clip off. That comes off pretty easy. I don't feel any oily residue under this bike whatsoever. I've looked at it pretty closely and don't see a thing. If you rotate it here, you will see a screw clamp. We are going to loosen that screw clamp and pull down on this clip, which will pull a plastic plug out of this tube, and the oil should drain out. Now, I am noticing, I'm feeling this, and this does feel corroded, this under this rubber. I want you to look at that. So this hose is definitely going to need to be replaced. Okay, we're going to get in here and loosen this screw clamp here. All right, we just got it broken free. Sucker doesn't want to budge. Oh, there we go. It's coming out mighty slow. See if you can see it there.
2,000 years later.
All right, it's been about 45 minutes of draining. This is all the oil that's come out of it. So, what does that tell us? That tells me one of 2 things. Either the oil is sitting in the bottom of the engine or it leaked out over time. I find it hard to believe it leaked out, or she would have known that it was on her garage floor. Okay, let's get this button back up here. We're going to tighten back the hose clamp, and we're not going to He-Man this. We don't want to break anything. We're just going to get it snug. Take that plastic clip, put it back on the frame tube, and we're done. So as I've said in the past, I'm really pretty much a beginning wrencher, and I certainly don't have all the answers. So I called a good friend of mine who's pretty knowledgeable on motorcycle wrenching. He's got a couple of Sportsters. Some of you may know him. His name is Saddle Tramp. He's a fellow YouTuber as well. And I got his take on this oil mystery situation. Now he seems pretty convinced that after all these years, the oil has just simply all settled down to the bottom of the engine. So I'm going to keep my fingers crossed and take his word for it. And by the way, if you like watching motorcycle videos, and I assume you do because you tuned into my channel watching me, you'll also enjoy watching Saddle Tramp, probably even more. But anyway, I'll put a link to his channel down in my comment section. Go check him out. So what the Tramp recommended I should do is add a quart or 2 of fresh oil as a precaution, so when I am ready to start it, I'll know for sure that there is at least some lubrication in there to protect things. And just in case there's already 3 or 3.5 quarts of oil in this thing and I end up having too much oil in it, it'll just simply overflow out of the oil tank and make a mess, but at least it won't hurt anything. So before I add a little oil to the tank, I'm going to take and change the oil filter. So you're probably asking, why change the oil filter at this point? Well, I'm really doing it simply as a precaution. I really don't know what's inside of this engine after 8 years, and when I do get the motor started, I won't be taking any chances. Now we know that oil isn't really fond of draining out of this engine, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some aluminum foil and I'm going to stick it underneath the oil filter to serve as a trough or a funnel in case there is any oil that wants to come out. And we'll also put the oil pan underneath. I recommend that unless you have an oil filter that's got a nut on top of it, which this one doesn't, that you use an oil filter wrench as such. This is a Harley wrench. Obviously it fits Harley bikes. It won't fit your Kawasaki or your Honda. These are cheap enough that you can have one for each bike that you have. This was about 11 bucks plus tax. And obviously the other thing you need is a ratchet driver. So I've got these together, and you want to make sure you turn counterclockwise. Should just take a couple of turns, and now that it's loose, we'll take it off and just finish it with our hands. And oh, a lot of oil coming out there. That's just full of oil. Well, I think Saddle Tramp was right. Score one for the Tramp. Maybe I should see about getting an aluminum foil brand as a sponsor for the channel. Well, that's pretty cool. I think we probably got about half a quart of oil out of this engine when we remove the filter. So that's a good thing. Now, one important thing to notice, see the color of that oil. It's actually pretty dark. And that makes me wonder, does this bike really only have 900 miles on it? Don't know that yet. So the new filter that's going to go on the Sporty is a high flow Filtro premium oil filter. And I ordered this from JNP Cycles. I don't remember how much it was, but it was cheaper than a comparable filter at the Harley dealership. All right, let's take this foil out of here. It's about done dripping. All right. I'm going to hit right around the edge there to get any drops of that old oil off. And now we're going to take this pre-lubed filter, and the last thing you want to do is cross thread an oil filter, so we're going to be careful here. Now what I like to do is just hand tighten this. I don't use a tool. I'm going to get this thing snug, or almost snug, and then turn it about a third or a quarter of a turn and get it hand snug, and that's it. No more. And because we're now fairly certain that there's oil in this tank, I'm only going to put about a quart in here as opposed to 1.5 or 2 quarts, just to be conservative. So let's get our little 99-cent funnel. Now, one thing I want to caution you to do is please check your owner's manual to find out just what oil you need to be putting into your engine. Now, for the Sportster 1200, I'm going to be using 2050 mineral oil that's specifically formulated for V-twin engines. We're right at a quart. And now I'm carefully going to pour this oil into the oil reservoir tank. And let's just give things a quick wipe to make sure we didn't leave any oil on anything. Well, we've made some pretty good progress today, I think, particularly in addressing my 3 major concerns that I had about the bike. We've gotten the old spark plugs freed up and taken out, and they actually look pretty good. The pistons are now moving freely inside the cylinders, and I think we've got the oil situation figured out and under control for the time being. So what's up next for the old barn find Sporty? Well, I think I'm going to remove the gas tank and give it the old vinegar soak to get any rust out and any gunk that may be lurking inside. But I think that's another video for another day. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have, please give it a like. And if you like this kind of stuff in general, please consider subscribing. Every little bit helps, and I'd really appreciate it. Thanks for watching, and until next time, this is Trip on Two Wheels, asking you to ride safe and ride often.